cute as a button. I don't care what you people say online. All right, happy Thursday, everyone, and what a glorious Thursday it is. But sadly, not for our dear friend, the president. According to the latest poll, Biden's less popular than an anchovy with a yeast infection. Only 33% of adults approve of Biden's job performance, which is a record low. And after answering the poll, those 33% were rushed back to the mental health facility where the pollsters had found them. But his approval is like his body temperature, barely above freezing. It's dropped 3 points since November, and it beats former President Trump's worst approval rating by 1 point. Well, at least he can finally say he's better than Trump at something. But it is an amazing comparison. Consider the kind of press that Trump got. It was a relentless drumbeat of hysterical hate. And yet Joe, who has none of that from the press, is rated worse than Trump. How can that be? How is it that a genial old man coddled by every media entity on earth is now less popular than the monster the media deemed worse than Hitler, Stalin, and Maroon 5 combined? Yes, it's an amazing feat, but not when you see how bad it's really gotten.
A message for vaccinated Americans who are wondering why they should continue to restrict their activities, given that your health officials say most Americans will get COVID at some point.
Folks, we'll talk about that later. Come on.
Go to bed now.
Mr. President, on voting rights, do you think the Republicans that don't support voting rights the virus is clearly winning, sir? Why should it be? Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Mr. President, do you believe Omicron is the beginning of the end of this pandemic?
There we go. Oh, he's praying for it all to end. Well, that's about as reassuring as an Uber driver with whiskey on his breath. Remember, Americans were sold Joe as political Xanax after the crystal meth of Donald Trump. Joe was supposed to be beloved, popular, a relief from Captain Evil. But even treated with kid gloves, we can't stand him. Even with the facelift and the hair transplant, you can't make him look good. Why is that? I mean, other than the fact he's a demented old circus monkey? Well, let's ask the president why his numbers are so low.
Look, people used to like me, all right? I used to shake hands on the Amtrak. I'd get in close and squeeze the Charmin. That's what worked. Now I got to do what they say. And they told me, spend a year in the basement, keep your mouth shut. When you come out, you'll be president. It worked. So I got to do what they say. They won't even let me smell people's heads anymore. You know, I think Jen Psaki's hair smells like cinnamon, but I'll never know.
That's the real tragedy. So the reasons for Joe tanking in the polls are obvious. Whenever crap is bad, which is a lot under the Dems, they don't address it. They can't address it. Instead, they pivot. It's why Jen Psaki is always circling back. As COVID and crime and inflation continue, Joe scampered into the world of voting rights, looking for cover. And because they become so invested in identity politics and wokeism, they don't know how to solve actual problems anymore. It's just pronouns instead of policy. They become so good at racial theatrics, but they bomb when it comes to helping out the average American voter. Meanwhile, Joe embraced rhetoric that was about as unifying as Alec Baldwin showing up on the set of a new Western. Well, it unified America against him, I suppose. Hell, even his allies admit he went too far.
Perhaps the president went a little too far in his rhetoric, but the fundamental principles and values at stake are very, very similar.
If he was trying to get votes, it was not the vote-getting speech. I think he gave a "you going to hell" speech.
Yeah, it was a "you going to hell" speech and not even in a handbasket. Fact is, while America struggles with serious stuff, Joe just labeled half of Americans once again as bigots, racists, monsters. Thanks for the support, Joe. And he wonders why he has a son who used to mistake Parmesan cheese on the rug for crack. Maybe Joe was just the a-hole the left tried to tell you Trump was. He played the "whose side are you on" shtick until even his own side doesn't want to be on his side anymore. Pretty soon, no one will be left to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, when you lose Al Sharpton and Dick Durbin, you are on island, and no one wants to get near you. The only way off is to swim right through it. So Joe is calling everyone racist. This from a man who went to the funeral of a KKK leader. His own VP implied he was racist during the debates. That's what the Democrats have become, a bunch of people calling everyone else racist, including each other. Too bad they can't tell you why you're racist. Just like critical race theory, you just are. But really, Joe, whose voting rights are Americans denying? They keep saying it's Jim Crow on steroids, but they can't find any victims with giant foreheads and back acne. There's no evidence that Republicans have tried to stop a legal voter from voting. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. I mean, how did Georgia, a red state that has a large black population, flip blue in the last election? It sure wasn't because Republicans kept black people from the ballot box. They can't even name one person kept from voting. Is it a convicted murderer who doesn't have a picture ID? I don't know. But then say so. We need clarity of who we're discriminating against, for God's sake. And yet the media plays along.
President Biden's fight to protect voting rights in this country.
President Biden has to win hearts and minds on Capitol Hill when he visits tomorrow to push voting rights legislation.
The president was pushing for the Senate to change its filibuster rules to pass voting rights legislation.
Right now, there is little hope any Republican in the Senate will vote in favor of any voting rights bill.
I'd call them tools, but that implies usefulness. Because even as they support the president, his numbers still tank. And theirs, right along with his. And that's because no one likes to be demonized. Well, I do, but that's on role-playing night. Do you know how hard it is to find red latex? An extra small? But Joe keeps smearing decent people who are just minding their own business. They aren't hindering the rights of others when it comes to voting. They're just trying to get along in tough times. It's kind of amazing. We're going through all of this, and Joe's still out in front calling you names while wondering why everyone keeps calling him Brandon. I mean, we have a president who ran on unifying, but now all he does is yell at you. Even though everything he accuses you of, like supporting bigots, he actually did himself. So no wonder his numbers continue to slide like a rectal thermometer dipped in motor oil. Yeah, I know. At this pace, he may get his own show on CNN. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She went from president of now to independent wow. Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. He's running for New York governor harder than the women who ran from our last governor. Congressman and Republican candidate for New York governor Lee Zeldin. Yeah. He must have left his tiger in the green room. What's up, Siegfried? Yeah, his wardrobe can induce seizures. Fox Across America host Jimmy Fallon. And she's like a kitchen sponge. Small, abrasive, and far more disgusting than most people realize. Fox News contributor Kat Tim. Excuse me. Yeah, it looked like you mugged David Blaine this time. You gonna do a little house magic during the break?
Listen, I love that you're always bagging on my clothes. You're wearing Velcro shoes. Like, do they light up when you walk? Like,
Velcro shoes are the greatest thing when you're in a hurry. You just slide them on in. And shoelaces, in stylish shoes, shoelaces always come loose. Do you ever notice that?
No, that isn't it.
It's like you have one job, shoelace. You have one job, shoelace, and you remain untied.
It drives me crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. I think it's the fault of Big Shoelace. Anyway, as a bigot and a racist, Jimmy, do you get you get offended?
By the way, did you notice how I didn't push back? I'm kidding.
But you must get offended that Biden labels people that so easily when you really have to work hard to be a bigot and a racist.
Time was you had to get out there in your taxi and refuse certain fares. The idea that you could just get it down for not supporting a garbage voter rights bill. Shame on him. And of course it's divisive and disgusting and inaccurate. But what's really so disqualifying about it is how stupid it is. And what I mean by how stupid it is I mean the strategic gambit of this. The Georgia Bulldogs on Monday night won their first national title in 40 years. 40 years, okay?
They're football.
Yes. They're in the middle of the biggest keg party America has ever seen.
Yes.
Somebody was like, I've got it. We'll fly down an old man to plug in his teleprompter and call everyone racist. It'll be great. And everybody's like, who the hell let this angry grandpa into the room?
Right, that's true.
And it drives people crazy for two reasons. Obviously, the timing and the execution is bad. But what? Georgia has more early voting than Delaware does. Okay, than most blue states do. And it's something even Jake Tapper called out on CNN. He said, oh, by the way, how come they never call out the blue states with restrictive voting rights?
Right.
And to be clear, Georgia has no restriction voting rights. There is no case of somebody not being allowed to vote. Although at this point, the only thing they're voting on is what bar to hit next because they don't care. But the reason we're hearing these stories now about Hillary Clinton potentially running in 2024. One is because she's probably paying Doug Schoen to write the article. But two, stick with me. I mean, she wants it in the news. But two, it's because we have already entered garbage time in this presidency. You know, like in a football game, sometimes a team goes up 31-0 in the first quarter, and the announcers are like, what are we going to talk about now? Well, we're in that moment in a presidency where the announcers are like, I guess we'll talk about Hillary. I don't know. And some people are like, oh, no, it's because she's younger than Biden. So is Moses. That's not why we're talking about her. We're talking about her because he sucks.
All right. You're returning to your era as a cab driver. You won't shut up.
Thank you.
Just get me to 31st and 3rd.
Hold on. Let me get the kid seat out of the back.
Oh.
Love you.
Yes. Tammy.
Yes.
Okay, his polling numbers. I always thought that he would be kind of likable, right? Weren't we supposed to think that he's not going to be like Trump. He's not going to be divisive. He's more divisive than Trump. It's amazing.
Well, I think when people look back now, Trump is a comedian. They realized his sense of humor. And you needed the perspective, right? The juxtaposition of this guy who is generally screaming all the time, get off my lawn.
Right.
He comes out, he says, get off my lawn. And when he was in the basement, we could project onto him.
Right.
He could be what we all imagined, like our grandpas or the old guy that we do like. And now he sits there, and like with that clip you had, he doesn't just sit there and look confused. He smirks at you.
Yeah.
Like he knows the secret and he thinks you're dumb.
Right.
And he's the problem.
Yeah.
So that's where Americans are looking like, you know, this isn't even like, theoretical arguments or about immigration, even though it is. It's real life events that we see now every day. Like, we can't fill up the gas tank because it's too expensive. Or it's like, do I buy my kids or my husband a steak, or do I fill up the tank?
Buy the steak.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't avoid it every day. And here is this guy sitting there like we're the problem, and like he knows everything, and then he's smirking at people. And the American people, they don't like bullies. They don't like people who look down on you. We love the underdogs, which this show's doing so well. People love the underdogs, right? I mean, so
it's also because I'm good looking.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
See, and you have a good time, and people might disagree with you sometimes, but you're not talking down to the people who
I
care
can't talk
about
down
us.
to anybody.
Well, there you go.
Because I'm short, okay? Just to make that clear. Congressman, it is kind of interesting. I just like the fact that, imagine if he had the same level of media criticism. He wouldn't even be president anymore.
His approval rating would be running neck and neck with COVID itself and inflation.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, we should not be shocked by these poll numbers that we're seeing. There's a lot of crises from Afghanistan, southern border, and spending and inflation, and supply chain crises. So we're not surprised by this. But this is how bad it's gotten. Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, just tweeted out an approval poll where the disapproval was higher. He was underwater.
Right.
It's gotten so bad inside the White House that they're pushing out bad polls, like saying, no, I know it's bad, but it's not that bad. Things are not going well right now in this country, and it is important for us to have competency. But I think what's actually frustrating a lot of Americans is worse than incompetency is when you see policies where you know exactly what you're doing wrong and you do it anyway.
Yeah. And
the southern border, that's not incompetency. They know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, and because they can't be seen to agree with the people that they are already demonizing, right? Because the people that know how to fix the border are the same people that they're calling deplorables or racist or cat timps. Yes.
Nobody calls me. I think I kind of can relate to the mistake that he's making, actually. I think everybody can. I think what he's doing is he's trying so desperately to be liked by people that are never going to like him anyway.
Right.
Like the super progressives, they're never going to like, the KKK eulogy guy. They're never going to like the 1994 crime bill guy. But he tried to give a speech that only those people would like.
Right.
And then, at the same time, he's turning away people that might be into him. You want to put it, but that's how you wind up with 33% approval rating. He's focusing so hard, and it's never going to work anyway. And he's just further dividing at people, and he's making people not like him even more. He's just creating new problems, which I think we have enough problems already.
Yeah, he's on a date, but he's checking out the girl at the other table who doesn't want to have anything to do with him.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.